What's happening, guys? Joey B here. This is something that I talked about in some of my previous health and wellness reports. However, I had a few subscribers asking me my thoughts on statins, and so I went ahead and assembled some information here, and we'll go over it in a brief video, and I'll include the links in the description box below for anyone who wants to check them out. But here's a piece talking about how it's confirmed once again that statins likely harm the heart. It talks about some new research that's been carried out, and you can learn about that here, and how the use of these cholesterol-lowering class of drugs known as statins are associated with an increased prevalence of microalbuminuria. I have to say that slow or I'll mess it up. I probably still messed it up. Anyway, a well-known marker of vascular dysfunction affecting both cardiovascular and kidney disease risk. And this is known to double the risk for a cardiovascular event in patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus, and is a marker for endothelial function. And it says that this endothelial dysfunction may in fact be far more significant than elevated blood lipids in determining cardiovascular disease risk. This new finding, therefore, calls into question the justification for using statin drugs for primary prevention of cardiovascular disease, which is presently the standard of care in the drug-based conventional medical model, and their severely flawed medical model. It goes on to talk a little bit more about this, and it includes a link to a good article here talking about how there's 300 plus health problems linked to statin drugs. So we'll go have a look at that. And over here on greenmedinfo.com, it's talking about how these 300 plus health problems are linked to statin drugs, and I'll link you up to it. But we'll get into it a little bit here. As it says, a growing body of clinical research now indicates that the cholesterol-lowering class of drugs known as statins are associated with over 300 adverse health effects. Research boldly flying in the face of national health policy, medical insurance premium guidelines, statin drug manufacturer advertising claims, and the general sentiment of the public, with approximately 1 in every 4 adult Americans over 45 currently using these drugs to prevent heart disease. And it goes on to talk about the cholesterol myth here, and I know I had talked a lot about that in the past, but it says here that for well over 40 years, statin drugs have successfully concretized a century-old myth about the primary cause of heart disease, namely that cholesterol causes plaque buildup in the arteries, ultimately leading to obstruction of blood flow and subsequent morbidity and mortality. Indeed, the medical establishment and drug companies have been singing the praises of this cholesterol myth to the tune of $25 billion in statin drug sales annually. While it is true that oxidized, low-density lipoprotein is found within the atheromatous plaque that is found in damaged arteries, it is less likely a cause than an effect of heart disease. The underlying damage to the lining of the artery, which could be infectious, chemical, stress, and or nutritionally related, comes before the immune response that results in plaque buildup there. Blaming LDL cholesterol for causing heart disease is like blaming the scab for the injury that caused it to form, or like blaming the Band-Aid for the scab it is covering. This is, after all, the inborn and fatal flaw of the allopathic medicine, which focuses only on symptoms of disease, which it then foolhardily attempts to suppress by any chemical means necessary. And it goes on to talk here about death by statins, and it goes on to mention a lot of the dangers and some of the adverse effects, and it gives you some additional links here, but it does talk about over 300 health adverse effects and gives you links to some more reports, so I wanted to include that for you guys. And this is another piece you guys should check out if you want to know the truth about statins. And it says, how statins really work explains why they don't really work. And it gives you a little introduction, talks about cholesterol and statins, it talks about LDL, HDL, and fructose, how statins destroy your muscles, basically, and it gives you all kinds of graphs And as it goes on to talk about membrane cholesterol depletion and ion transport. Very, very extensive article here. As you see in here, it also talks about long-term statin therapy leads to damage everywhere, and it gives you side effects and reviews. And look at all these charts here: and heart failure, ALS, diabetes, liver damage, kidney failure, arthritis, memory problems, Parkinson's disease, neuropathy, dementia. I mean, the list goes on. Goes on to talk about statins, caveolin, and muscular dystrophy. Statins in the brain, because it has a detrimental effect on your cognitive function as well. It talks about cholesterol's benefits to longevity. And because of cholesterol, there's a huge deception going on in regards to cholesterol. And I've ranted on it for extensive periods of time in my health and wellness reports that I've done. But it even gives you what to do instead to avoid heart disease. And this is some of the natural ways we should be, taking the measures to protect ourselves and not relying on toxic chemicals that are nothing but artificial treatments and don't cure anything, in fact. So this is a very extensive article with a lot of great information in there, and I think this is something else you guys should seriously check out, especially if you're a person out there who's taken these statin drugs for one reason or another. And other studies are showing how statin use is possibly linked to fatigue as well. And there's links to the University of California, San Diego, and the Archives of Internal Medicine, and other studies that have been done on this in this article here. So I'll link you up at that below as well. And finally, this is an article I want to throw in here. It's something I had posted up on exaltedtruth.com back in February. And it talks about how in the U.S. there's 29 billion reasons to lie about cholesterol. And it just talks extensively about the cholesterol myth and a lot of facts on the matter and how it's so detrimental, and some natural ways to battle any ailments that may be potentially caused, as well as it talks about how cholesterol is actually a good thing for the most part, and there's a huge manipulation of information going on in regards to this, just like I had talked about in so many of my previous health and wellness reports. So I want to link you guys up with all that, especially for the few subscribers who were messaging me and asking me my opinion on them, because they are taking these drugs. And so here's the information, guys. It's all linked below. Be sure to check it out. And hopefully you guys can get off these statins, because they're extremely detrimental. So much love and God bless you guys.